Meantime, talks are set to resume over Tehran's nuclear program. Top officials from Iran and the U.S. meet face-to-face Monday in Geneva. EU diplomats will also be at the talks. An interim agreement was signed last November, and some sanctions on Iran were relaxed. But that agreement expires next month, and there are still several difficult issues to be resolved. Our correspondent Nathan King has been on top of this situation and joins us live here in studio. Nathan.
Hi, Susan. Thanks. Remember, since last November, Iran has limited the amount and potency of uranium enrichment in return for $7 billion in limited sanction relief. These and other confidence-building measures are meant to show that, one, Iran has stopped short of its ability to possibly build a nuclear weapon quickly, and two, to show that that the international community is ready to lift sanctions if Tehran complies with UN Security Council resolutions. But following several rounds of talks between Iran and the international group of the US, China, Russia, UK, France and Germany, as yet no deal. Let's have a look at the sticking points. They include restrictions and monitoring of Iranian uranium production, preventing Iran's production of plutonium, which could potentially be used in a nuclear weapon, and also lifting restrictions on Iranian oil exports. These talks, which will include the US and Iran face-to-face, come ahead of a key meeting which is scheduled for June 16th. These could be the last round before a deadline of July 20th. Now, that deadline can be extended for another 6 months, but under the terms of the interim deal. But that would lead to a lot of pressure on all sides. Here in the US, lawmakers have been pushing for more automatic sanctions if the talks should fail. Israel has also been pressuring the US to make sure any deal is verifiable. And in Iran, there is deep skepticism that any deal will allow Iran to develop peaceful nuclear programs, which is allowed under the Nuclear Non-Proliferation Treaty. There's also pressure on President Rouhani to make sure the bulk of economic sanctions are lifted if any deal is done, Susan.
I see. Well, so you mentioned talk of a possible extension, but is it make or break right now?
Good question. I don't think we're quite at the make or break stage at the moment, but they are crucial. Listen, the interim nuclear agreement was comparatively easy. It basically stopped the clock on Iranian nuclear production and limited sanctions relief. These were all low-hanging fruit in diplomatic terms of what any final deal would be. But now we're at that crucial stage where all major players have to agree to a deal that will satisfy all the countries involved, their domestic constituencies, and be guaranteed for a certain length of time. So we're now back in this position in a few months or a few years' time. In fact, the length of time is also a sticking point in the deal. The US want it to last at least a decade.
I see. So it's good that we're at least sitting down at the table and talking with Iran. This is progress, but what about the countries closer to Iran? Should they not have been included?
Well, yeah, I mean, the good thing is that the US meeting face-to-face. They haven't met face-to-face since the Iranian Revolution, and diplomatic relations were broke off in 1980. But remember, this whole set of negotiations was actually brought about by back-channel negotiations between the US and Iran and Oman. That ticked quite a few powers off that they weren't included. So the US is trying to say, look, we're having these talks now to get over thorny issues. They aren't under auspices of this P5 group plus one, as they're called. And the Iranians are then, after these negotiations with the US and the EU at the table, going to speak to the Russians, and they said other bilateral countries as well, ahead of this key meeting on June 16th. So the fact that they're still talking, no one's walked out over the last 6 months, that's crucial.
Yeah, let's hope that we can all get it solved by July 20th.
Thank you.
Nathan King, thank you.